The massive iron gates of Aurelion Academy towered like ancient guardians, etched with glowing runes that pulsed in rhythm with the heartbeat of the city. These gates were more than simple barriers. They were symbols of power, the threshold into a place where the strongest were bred, molded, and unleashed upon the galaxy. Students in sleek black and silver uniforms streamed past the gates. Their collars shimmered with insignias, glowing crests that signified their bonds with apex beasts. Creatures not born of this universe but summoned through rifts in reality. These creatures, ranging from colossal serpents to elemental titans, were more than companions. They were weapons of destruction, the pride of empires. At the very top stood one name, Kale Draxon, bonded with the nightmare-class Leviathan, a winged serpent so massive it could eclipse the artificial sun. His victories were not wins, they were massacres. His arrogance was legendary, and his supremacy undisputed. But not all within the Academy thrived. The unbonded, the forgotten, walked its halls like ghosts. Among them was a girl named Lyra Veyne. The central arena was filled with thousands of voices, cheering, mocking, waiting. Today, Kale would demonstrate the might of his Leviathan before the galaxy's eyes. And as entertainment, the masters had chosen an unbonded sacrifice. That sacrifice was Lyra. She walked into the arena without insignia, without fear. The crowd jeered. Kale smirked, towering in his obsidian armor. "This is insulting," he sneered. "You pit me against this?" With a gesture, Kale summoned his apex. The rift split open, reality tearing, and the Leviathan emerged, scales like black glass, wings blotting the sky, eyes burning with hate. Its roar shattered the air, the runes of the arena straining to hold. The audience gasped, awed and terrified. The serpent coiled around the arena, its presence suffocating. The Academy's apex had arrived, and Lyra stood alone beneath its shadow. Everyone expected her to scream, to crumble, to beg for mercy. But instead, Lyra laughed, a sharp, fearless laugh that silenced the crowd. Kale's smirk faltered. "You laugh, human?" Lyra's lips curved into a mocking grin. "That thing? That's your apex beast?" She tilted her head and raised a hand casually. "Cute, but mine's bigger." The words struck like thunder. The masters stirred in their seats. The crowd broke into disbelieving shouts. Unbonded couldn't summon. They couldn't form contracts. Without insignias, it was impossible. And yet, the air around her began to quake. The runes glowed violently, cracks appearing in the sky dome above. Even the Leviathan froze, its head jerking toward Lyra as if sensing something it feared. Then she whispered, "Come." The world went silent. Then, the dome shattered. From the rift came wings of midnight and starlight, stretching wider than the Leviathan itself. A roar followed, deep, ancient, shaking the marrow of every soul. It was not just sound. It was eternity. A wolf stepped through, colossal, its fur shimmering with galaxies. Each stride bent the air, leaving stardust in its wake. The Leviathan recoiled, lowering itself instinctively. The wolf's gaze burned like twin suns. It bowed its head to Lyra, its voice echoing across minds. "You called, my master." The crowd erupted in chaos. Students screamed. Teachers scrambled to stabilize collapsing barriers. The masters sat frozen, powerless. Kale staggered, disbelief on his face. "No! Impossible! You can't—" Lyra placed her hand on the cosmic wolf's snout, calm and mocking. "You relied on rituals and contracts. But some bonds are born, not forged. This one was always mine." Kale roared in desperation. "Leviathan, kill her!" The serpent lunged, wings unfurling, but the wolf moved like starlight, blurring, striking, dismantling. The serpent's wings shredded like parchment, its coils slammed against the ground. Every attack was countered, nullified, mocked. Pinned beneath a single glowing paw, the Leviathan screamed before falling silent, broken. The arena lay in ruins. Kyle collapsed, pride shattered. "This isn't possible." Lyra turned to the masters, her wolf towering behind her like a god. "Your academy built its pride on beasts. Remember this, I don't need your approval. My bond was never yours to control." And with that, she walked away, the cosmic wolf padding silently at her side, galaxies burning in its fur. Chaos reigned in her wake. The masters whispered in panic. Students stared in awe and terror. Across the galaxy, whispers spread. Some called her a fraud. Others declared her the dawn of a new age. But one truth was undeniable. They had unleashed their apex beast, and the human girl had laughed and called hers over. The academy did not sleep that night. Even as darkness swallowed the twin moons of Aurelion, voices carried through marble corridors and shimmering glass towers. Everywhere, the same question burned in hushed tones. What had they just witnessed? The arena that had once belonged to Kale Draxon, to his colossal Leviathan, now felt like the shadow of something far greater. Lyra Veyne, the forgotten girl, had stepped into history and shattered it with a single laugh. In the chamber of the masters, 10 cloaked figures sat around a circular obsidian table. Their faces were cast in blue firelight, their eyes haunted by the memory of the wolf. "This cannot be," one whispered, hands trembling as he touched the runes etched into the stone. "No human has ever summoned a primordial. They are not beasts to be called. They are older than the academy, older than the summoning art itself." Another master leaned forward, voice sharp. "Yet it happened. We all saw it. That creature wore galaxies in its pelt. It did not bend to her. It walked beside her, as though she were its equal." Silence swallowed the chamber. No one dared suggest the obvious, that the hierarchy they had enforced for centuries was now meaningless. Elsewhere, Kale Draxon's fury echoed through the steel walls of his private quarters. His Leviathan coiled in the astral plane, its body stretching for miles, its roar shaking the very glass of the academy spires. Yet none of its power soothed Kale's humiliation. He had built his identity on domination, on the fear etched into every student's heart. And in an instant, Lyra had stolen that fear from him. He replayed the moment in his mind. Her calm eyes, her quiet laugh, her wolf that carried infinity in its fur. His fists bled from how tightly he clenched them. "She thinks she's untouchable," he whispered, his voice low and venomous. "I'll prove her wrong. I'll tear her wolf apart with my Leviathan's teeth, and when it falls, she will kneel before me." But Lyra did not hear his threats. She walked the gardens beyond the arena, her wolf pacing beside her, its paws stirring the starlight woven into the grass. The gardens were empty, for none dared approach her, but Lyra did not feel alone. She rested a hand on the wolf's fur. It was both warm and cold, both solid and intangible. She did not summon it. She had never performed the ritual, but the wolf remained, as though it had always been waiting for her. "What are you?" she asked softly. The wolf turned its great head, galaxies burning in its eyes, and Lyra swore she heard a whisper, not in sound, but in her soul. "You are what you've always been. You called me because you were ready." The words were not comforting. They were terrifying. Lyra was no savior, No chosen one. She had been nothing, forgotten, mocked as unbonded, treated as less than human. Now the galaxy looked to her as if she were a storm on the horizon. She did not want to lead revolutions, nor to stand at the center of prophecy. Yet she knew the truth. There was no turning back. The moment she had called the wolf, she had changed everything. Whether she wished it or not, her path had already begun. The following day, the Academy's great amphitheater overflowed with restless voices. News traveled across the galaxy in streams of light, carrying stories of the girl who had laughed in the face of Kale Draxon's Leviathan. What was once myth now became rumor, and what was rumor hardened into fear. Ambassadors of distant empires arrived in secret, cloaked ships docking in orbit. They came not for Kale, but for the girl no one had ever noticed until now. Kale entered the amphitheater like a storm contained in human form. His crimson uniform gleamed with medals of conquest, his eyes sharp with rage. The crowd parted in fear, but his gaze was locked only on the empty chair reserved for Lyra. She had not come. She did not need to. Her absence was louder than his presence. The masters addressed the assembly. "A disruption has occurred," said the eldest, her voice trembling despite her attempt at authority. "Our traditions are shaken, but the order will hold. Kale Draxon remains our champion, our apex." Her words rang hollow. Even the first years who had never dared speak aloud their doubts now whispered them openly. If Kale were truly supreme, why had the girl walked away unbroken? Far beyond the amphitheater, Lyra trained in silence. The wolf guided her, though never with words. Instead, it moved and she followed. She learned to step where the stars aligned, to strike where gravity bent, to breathe with the rhythm of collapsing suns. Each moment felt less like training and more like remembering, like the knowledge had always been buried inside her, waiting for the wolf to awaken it. And still, questions gnawed at her. Who had bound the wolf to her soul? What fate had been written in her name? That night, Kale confronted the masters. His voice thundered like his Leviathan's roar. "You let her live. You let her walk away. You dare call me champion while that fraud mocks us all?" His Leviathan writhed in the astral void, shadows curling across the chamber walls. But the masters, for all their fear, said nothing. They had seen the wolf. They had felt its gaze. And though they despised their silence, they knew the truth. Kale was no longer the center of their galaxy. Lyra, meanwhile, dreamed. She saw visions of a throne not built by hands, but carved by the collapse of dying stars. She saw chains breaking, bonds shattering, a galaxy burning not from war, but from awakening. And always at her side, the wolf waited, silent, eternal. When she woke, she whispered to herself, "If I am to carry this, I must decide who I will be." A weapon or something else entirely. Kale could not endure the whispers. Each passing hour fed the fire of his humiliation until it consumed him. The Leviathan, sensing its master's turmoil, grew restless, its endless coils scraping against the edges of the astral plane. Students awoke screaming as its presence bled through their dreams. Kale's rage infected the academy like a sickness. He challenged Lyra publicly, sending a message that spread across the entire student body: "Face me, or admit you are a coward." He inscribed the words into the sky itself, the letters burning in firelight above the spires. Students cheered, not for him, but for the inevitable clash. They wanted to see the wolf again. Lyra received the challenge while walking the outer rings of the academy, where the gravity fluctuated and the stars felt close enough to touch. The wolf sat beside her, unmoved, galaxies burning in its fur. "He will not stop," she said. "He cannot." For the first time, the wolf's head dipped, as though in agreement. Lyra did not want to fight, but she understood. To refuse would only feed Cale's madness. And so, she accepted. The arena was filled to its breaking point. Shields of energy shimmered across its dome, reinforced tenfold, for even the masters feared what was about to unfold. Cale entered with the fury of a collapsing sun. His Leviathan tore open the void, its body blotting out the sky, its wings crackling with storms. The crowd shrank back in terror at its sheer immensity. Lyra stepped forward quietly. No grand gestures, no arrogance. Only the soft padding of her wolf beside her, its cosmic fur painting the ground in starlight. The contrast was almost unbearable. Cale's monstrous fury against her calm silence. And yet, the silence was louder. The battle began. The Leviathan struck first, its tail whipping through the air with enough force to shatter mountains. But the wolf moved like thought, each step a distortion of reality, each strike a rewriting of gravity. The clash was not one of equal force, but of different laws of existence. Cale fought with overwhelming power. Lyra fought with inevitability. And for the first time, Cale knew fear. The arena screamed under the force of their battle. Shields buckled, cracks spreading like spiderwebs across the dome as Leviathan's roars collided with the wolf's silent strikes. Students clutched the rails, some weeping, some cheering, all aware that they were witnessing something far greater than an ordinary duel. This was not just a contest of strength, it was a clash of eras. Cale fought with desperation, his every command hurled like a blade. "Crush her! Devour her! Tear the stars from her beast skin!" The Leviathan obeyed, striking with storms and darkness, its coils wrapping around the wolf like chains. But the wolf did not thrash or panic. Instead, its body dissolved into starlight, slipping through the serpent's grip as though it had never been bound. It reformed at Lyra's side, unbroken, eternal. The masters watched in horror. "She is not controlling it," one whispered. "It chooses to fight. It chooses to stay." That truth was more frightening than the battle itself. For if a primordial had chosen a human, then the balance of their galaxy had already been rewritten. Cale's fury broke into something worse. Fear. His Leviathan faltered, sensing its master's desperation, and in that hesitation, the wolf struck. Not with claws or fangs, but with silence. A silence so profound, it drowned the roars of the Leviathan. A silence that pressed against the hearts of every soul in the arena. In that silence, truth was revealed. Cale was not invincible. He was just a boy wielding a monster he could never truly understand. With a final howl that sounded like the birth of a star, the wolf unleashed its light. The Leviathan recoiled, not destroyed, but humbled, forced back into the void from which it had been drawn. Cale fell to his knees, his voice breaking as he screamed denial. But the crowd saw the truth. The age of Cale Draxon was over. And in the silence that followed, every student turned to Lyra Veyne. The duel ended, but the echoes remained. Across the galaxy, whispers became declarations. Lyra Veyne had defeated Cale Draxon, the Academy's unshakable champion. Her name traveled faster than light, carried on the voices of students, masters, and spies. Empires listened, factions stirred. Some declared her a savior, others a threat. For where a primordial walked, history bent. Lyra herself did not celebrate. She sat in the ruins of the garden, her wolf curled around her like a fragment of night. Victory felt like chains, not freedom. Every gaze burned into her, every whisper tried to define her. Yet she did not even know who she was. The wolf nuzzled her shoulder, and in that touch, she heard it again. You are not their weapon. You are their ending. The masters gathered in secret once more. Their voices were sharp, fearful, desperate. If she can call one primordial, she may call more. We cannot allow her to grow unchecked. Should we end her? The suggestion froze the chamber. They all knew the truth. Even united, they could not. Not against her, not against the wolf. And so they turned their fear into calculation. If they could not destroy her, perhaps they could use her, or failing that, contain her. Meanwhile, Kyle plotted in silence. His defeat had not broken him. It had sharpened him. In his chamber, he bled willingly, drawing runes of forbidden power onto his skin. The Leviathan loomed in the shadows, silent, resentful, but bound. Kale whispered to it, not as a master to beast, but as a desperate man bargaining with the abyss. If she is chosen, then I will choose myself. If her wolf is eternity, then I will summon something older still. His eyes burned with madness. He would not be forgotten. And Lyra? She closed her eyes and dreamed again. She saw fire across the stars, chains breaking in countless worlds. And at the center, she saw herself, standing not alone, but with others. The wolf's voice lingered. They will come for you. And when they do, you must decide. Will you fight for them or against them? The academy could not contain her anymore. Lyra walked its halls as though she were already beyond them, her wolf's silent steps echoing like thunder. Students did not bow, but neither did they challenge her. Some looked with awe, others with fear, but all knew the same truth. She was no longer a student. She was something else entirely. Ships arrived from across the galaxy, ambassadors cloaked in finery, generals armored in starlight, priests bearing ancient texts, all came with the same question. Who is Lyra Veyne? Each sought to claim her, to mold her, to wield her wolf as a blade for their cause. Lyra refused them all. She was no weapon, not theirs, not anyone's. But storms brewed beyond the Academy's reach. Empires saw opportunity in chaos. Armadas shifted in silence. Alliances broke in whispers. The balance of power that had endured for centuries trembled. And always, at the center of every conversation, every fear, every plan, was her name. Kale emerged again, but not as he had been. His body bore scars of ritual, his aura twisted by shadows that did not belong to the Leviathan. His eyes glowed with madness and hunger. You thought you ended me, he said, his voice echoing like broken glass. But I have only begun. If you summon primordials, then so shall I. And the void behind him cracked, bleeding darkness that no master recognized. Something older than even the wolf stirred in answer. Lyra stood upon the Academy's highest spire, the galaxy stretching before her. The wolf pressed against her side, its fur whispering with starlight. She looked to the horizon, to the wars already forming, to Kale's corruption, to the master's fear, and to the countless voices calling her savior and destroyer both. She did not know what path awaited, but she knew one thing with certainty. The age of silence was over. The galaxy had unleashed its apex beast, and Lyra Veyne was only the beginning.